Good morning, everyone. I am Congresswoman Sydney Kamlager-Dove, representing California's 37th District in Los Angeles. We have other members coming out. Before we get started today, I want to acknowledge that today is the 24th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. Having spent part of my childhood in New York, I know how hard this day is for the city, for the residents here in Washington, and for all Americans who recall that fateful day. So please join us in a moment of silence as we remember all of those who lost their lives that day and in its wake. Thank you. I also want to thank you all for being here today, and especially Congressman Vargas for being my partner in this press conference, but also Representatives Garcia, Ramirez, Simon, and Rivas for showing up to advocate for your constituents. We stand here today just a few blocks from the Supreme Court, and just a few days ago, the conservative judges there declared open season on my constituents in Los Angeles when they ruled that the Trump administration can racially profile anyone, as Justice Sotomayor said, who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job. For the last several months, Trump's goons at the Department of Homeland Security have been terrorizing immigrant communities in Los Angeles. They have been recklessly snatching U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, and immigrants who have become integral members of our communities. Despite claiming that they're going after criminals, they've targeted Home Depots, street vendors, landscapers, churches, car washes, restaurants, even elementary schools. I don't know of any MS-13 cartel bosses who are in the third grade. On top of that, Trump and Republicans just slashed billions in funding for health care and other safety net programs. And now they want to use funding from the same programs they just defunded to hunt down immigrants for deportation. That is a hell no. Even more alarming, the Trump administration is plotting to use our personal health care data to hunt down and snatch our immigrant neighbors. Back in July, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services agreed to hand over access to the data of our nation's 79 million Medicaid enrollees to ICE. But we still have time to stop this madness. That is why today I am proud to introduce the Limiting ICE's National Encroachment Act, or the LINE Act. This bill would prohibit Health and Human Services and CMS from disclosing any personal information obtained through Medicaid enrollment to ICE for immigration enforcement purposes. We are drawing a line in the sand. I am proud to join Representative Vargas in introducing legislation that prevents HUD from doing the same thing. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Healthcare access should never be conditioned on immigration status or fear of government surveillance, and fear of immigrant enforcement should not stop people from seeking necessary health care. We must ensure our personal data is not weaponized for arrests, detentions, or deportations, especially when immigration enforcement is conducting lawless, reckless, and brutal raids that sweep up innocent people. Trump administration officials might be calculating, but they are not qualified, and they should not be trusted with this data. RFK is not qualified to lead HHS, Dr. Oz is not qualified to lead CMS, and Kristi Noem is not qualified to lead DHS. I don't know about you, but I don't want RFK Jr. to have access to my personal data. It is bad enough that the Trump administration is creating a master list of Americans' personal information and stealing while accidentally putting at risk our Social Security data. They cannot use our personal health care and housing data against us, too. We must protect our most private data, and not just for our immigrant neighbors, but for each and every one of us. So hands off our data, and let's keep fighting to protect our data and our immigrant families. I'd now like to turn it over to my California homie, Congressman Vargas, And then we will hear from Congresswoman Garcia, Congresswoman Ramirez, Congresswoman Rivas, and Congresswoman Simon. You are in the company of some strong women. Thank you again for your partnership and leadership.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I first and foremost want to thank my colleague, and also for the first time being called homie. That's nice. I like that. Kamlager-Dove. Yes, thank you. And it is an honor to stand here with such strong colleagues. And I, too, want to take a moment. This is the anniversary of September 11th. My wife's a New Yorker. One of her uncles was in one of the buildings. He fortunately didn't die, but he was injured. And I lived in New York for 3 years myself, and I know it was a very difficult time for so many people there. And it's a difficult moment, I think, for our country that we're passing through. And so we want to honor, again, all of them. Now, I want to thank, again, everybody that's here, my colleagues. We're here to announce, as you heard, the introduction of 2 new bills to help prevent immigrants amid Trump's out-of-control crackdown. This administration has repeatedly targeted our immigrant communities. They have snatched immigrants off the streets and disappeared them with no due process at all. They have deported U.S. citizen children with cancer. I mean, the most outrageous things that you can think of. They have militarized our streets with aggressive ICE raids. They have torn families apart, and amid ongoing terror, the Supreme Court, as you just heard, just greenlit racial profiling. They literally said that ICE agents can target and detain people just the way they look and the language they speak. No probable cause at all. This administration is rolling back civil liberties, and terrorizing our immigrant communities. And in recent months, Trump has opened up a new front. This administration is now going after the personal sensitive data of millions and trying to turn it over to immigration enforcement officials. In recent months, the Trump administration announced that they will start sharing Medicaid and federal housing data with DHS. That means that personal information of HUD recipients and nearly 79 million Medicaid enrollees, including home addresses and ethnicities, will be turned over. That's unacceptable. And it's also all of your data. That's unacceptable. We can't allow this to happen. This is personal data that belongs to us. We're becoming a police state. I mean, even now at the airport, I don't even know what they're using the biometrics. I don't even know if they track us now when we drive on the street, because it is becoming a police state under this administration. This effort to pull personal, private, and unrelated health and housing data to fuel a mass deportation agenda, it can't go unanswered. Together, as you heard, we're introducing new federal legislation to block this kind of data sharing. And again, this is something that I think is very, very important. And some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, you've heard how they say they want to protect private information. This is their opportunity. Our bill will make sure that HUD, HHS, and CMS can't just hand over personal data to DHS for the purpose of immigration enforcement. We have to protect immigrant families, and we also have to protect people's personal data. Hands off our data. And I'm proud to be standing here with my colleagues to do just that. And as was noted, very strong women. I'm very proud of that, too. Very strong women. Together, we're going to continue to push back against Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. We cannot turn away. We must continue to stand against these abuses and stand up for our communities. And with that, I introduce Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you to all our other colleagues that are here and those of them who join us but could not be here, because quite frankly, this is an area where I think many of us will agree on. When it comes to our own data, nobody wants Big Brother following you. Nobody wants Big Brother to get that and abuse it. Nobody wants a scammer to get it. And once it's out there, there's no turning back. It just can go and grow and do more harm and damage. So let's be clear. This is, when it comes to housing, and I'm going to focus on housing because As a member of financial services, we have jurisdiction over a lot of the housing dollars and what HUD does. But let's be clear, this is about people deserving also a safe place at home. This whole notion that they have to do this sharing because people are harboring, undocumented people. This is not harboring. This is people living together as families. And this whole notion that people think that there's all these immigrants that are getting housing dollars or getting Medicaid, those are just lies. They present no proof. They're merely accusations that they throw out there for their own political purposes. So when I hear all this stuff about harboring aliens, it really is just a flat lie. I started out in social work, and one thing I learned early on was that you had to be a citizen to get food stamps, to get Medicaid, or any of these programs. This whole myth, and we call it a welfare myth, this whole myth that you've got all these quote unquote, because I don't use the word, I hate the word, illegal aliens living off of government programs is just false. It's a blatant lie. So when someone in the family is a non-citizen, it's true that household may get housing dollars, but it's prorated. So somebody at HUD just doesn't know how to count. They didn't know basic math. So it's easy. If a house has 5 people and the rent is $600 and there's 2 people in the house that are not citizens, they're not getting $600. They're getting probably $360 because there are 3 people in the house that are citizens. It's prorated. It's always been that way. For Medicaid, if there's a person who's eligible for Medicaid and that's living for someone who's not, it's called, I actually had a Fifth Circuit case on this when I was a legal aid lawyer. You don't count all that income against them because it's the child that's getting the money and disqualify the child because it's the parents or someone else in the household who is getting the money, the income. So to me, it's just ludicrous that they're trying to suggest that now we can't provide housing dollars to a family just because one person may or may not be a full citizen. Because we've got to take care of people, because the people that we're taking care of with these dollars are usually children. They're usually mothers with children. They're grandmas. They're people that have no other resource to be able to get a roof over their head. And if, the fellow in the White House said a couple of weeks ago that he thought there was a housing crisis. Well, he's a late coming because the housing crisis has been there for some time. And he's correct. And you don't fix it by cutting housing dollars out of poor people's hands. And I can't tell you how awful it is that the Supreme Court has legitimized racial profiling. I remember when I was a baby judge, because I went on from being a legal aid lawyer to being a judge. One of the first things they taught us in baby judge school was... There is a baby judge school. Is that everybody has their day, should get a fair day in court. Okay? That was easy to understand. But the other thing they told us was to never judge anyone by what you see in front of you. Whether it's the clothes they wear, their color, their hair, because you just have to listen to the facts and listen to the case in front of you. And what they've done now, and I'm going to read the whole quote. I too dissent, Justice Sotomayor, not just as a former judge, but as a decent human being who knows about accepting the dignity and worth of an individual. She said, we should not live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino. Look at me, y'all. Do I look Latino? Do you look Latino? There's people behind me that look more Latino than I do. So think about it. That looks Latino, speaks Spanish, yo hablo español, pero si no comienzo a hablar, no saben que soy Latina in veces. What I said, unless I start speaking Spanish, sometimes people don't even know I'm Latina. And appears to work a low-wage job. Now, what does that mean? I feel like we're kind of living on a low-wage job here in Congress. When you count the number of hours that we work and divide by our pay, we're probably all low-wage job workers. And rather than send Ali Bible, our constitutional freedoms are lost, she said, I dissent. Well, I dissent too. Because that's one thing we did learn in Baby Jessica, that you cannot judge someone by the clothes they wear. But that's what they're doing. And they're allowing them. I think Kavanaugh even mentioned that if you find someone that's at Home Depot that is looking like they're from a construction job, looking for a construction job, and they speak Spanish, it's reasonable to think they may be Latino. I'm going to the Home Depot as soon as I can when I get home. And I'm going to go over there speaking Spanish and see what they do with me. I think we should all do that. Because we need to show them that they're wrong. So it's true, as Mr. Vargas said, Trump has his secret police, and he's trying to arm them with every rule that he has in his books, but it's not necessarily the Constitution, and it's not the rule of law. Everything that they're doing is beyond the Constitution, in my view, and giving people that don't wear badges, that don't give you their names, that don't tell you where they're from, the authority to just pick up anybody they want to, is just wrong. And now to give them the data to equip them to go into people's homes and do even worse is even more wrong. So I condemn this and totally support the Home Together Act and the Line Act. What we need to continue to do whatever we can to slam the door shut on this kind of hate and this kind of secret police tactics. With that, I yield to my colleague and friend from Chicago, Representative Ramirez.
Thank you.
Good morning. Buenos dias. In the past 8 months, it's hard to believe that it's only been 8 months. There are days like today that you wake up and you feel like it's been 8 years. But this administration has abused American data and neglected our data security. Americans' data has been in the hands of unaccountable billionaires, don't forget Elon Musk, mishandled by an illegitimate fake entity, questionably analyzed by AI programs, and abused by the government to persecute our neighbors. The last part is what we're talking about here today. You see, Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, resign Kristi, Stephen Miller, Tom Homan, and all of the criminals in this administration have weaponized every single agency created by Congress and the data they collect about our neighbors to pursue their vile mass deportation campaign. Through their terror force, they have expanded their power by giving USCIS agents police powers. How does a USCIS agent now get police powers? They're creating a police force where they can carry guns and bypass local authorities, deputizing federal officers from other agencies and taking control of Americans' data in gross violation of our privacy and our civil rights. Driven by their quotas, they've used private, confidential data willingly provided to the IRS, HUD, HHS, and other agencies by our hard-working, law-abiding immigrant neighbors to build their target list. Now, what are they doing with these lists? You've heard from my colleagues here. They use those lists to racially profile, harass, stop, and otherwise terrorize our neighbors. It is why I'm so grateful to be here today with the honorable Congress people from California, Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove and Congressman Vargas. We say homie also in Chicago. Our homie from Chicago too. As well as Congresswoman Simon, Congresswoman Garcia, and Congresswoman Rivas. Surrounded by strong women and men who understand that this is a moment that we stay together and we stand as co-leads of the Home Together Act and co-sponsoring the Limiting ISIS National Encroachment Act. Because this is a moment where we need a lot of strong women and men to fight back against Trump's administration data abuses and weaponization of our neighbors' confidential information. And as Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia said, we should all be alarmed. Because make no mistake, today they are targeting immigrants. Tomorrow it could be any of you. It could be anyone who stands against a fascist regime that is threatening a war against its own American cities, against its own Constitution, and against our own democracy. You see, the unlawful actions used against immigrants today will be used tomorrow on anyone who is considered undesirable or a threat to fascism. Because the reality is, fascism always requires a public enemy. It is why these bills are so important, why we're announcing it today, and we ask all of our colleagues to join us to protect Americans and immigrant neighbors and protect your data that should be secure and safe as a commitment that we make in protecting the people of this country. So I want to thank my colleagues for introducing this legislation with us, and I look forward to working with all of you to ensure that we get this bill to the House floor as quickly as possible. And so today I also want to introduce to you another Californian. Thank goodness we got a little Chicago and Texas here. I want to introduce to you Honorable Congresswoman Rivas.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you, and thank you to Congressman Vargas and Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove, my fellow Californians, for hosting today's press conference and for leading on the Home Together Act and the LINE Act. Just this week, we all saw the Supreme Court's decision that allows ICE to use racial profiling tactics and put a target on the backs of brown and Spanish-speaking individuals. And now this administration wants your personal data to allow ICE to continue terrorizing immigrant communities. HUD and HHS have no authority to share any personal information with the intent of carrying out the Trump administration's anti-immigrant agenda. These bills make sure that the data that these agencies have that does not become weaponized as a tool to deport hardworking individuals and families. You know, this data is highly sensitive. None of us want our data shared. Privacy is concern for majority of Americans, and that's why I proudly joined my colleagues here to co-sponsor these bills. I've heard from too many families in my district in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles who are already terrified to leave their homes because of the ICE raids. Students are missing school, parents are not showing up to work, and less families are seeking health care at a time where they really need it. Without these bills, more families across my district and across the country will be in harm's way. This should not be a complicated issue. No one's personal information that was shared in confidentiality should ever be used against them. Our communities deserve to live in safety and without the fear that their information will be turned over to ICE and used against them. And that's why I'm here, excited to join my colleagues to co-sponsor both of these bills, and I call on all my colleagues to protect our communities and pass these bills. Thank you, and next up, I'm proud to introduce Representative Simon from California.
Thank you. Yet another Californian. I want to thank my colleagues for calling this press conference today. It's a heavy day. It's a heavy time. And for many of us, our lineage here in this country has been heavy. I'm the first born in my mother's family out of segregation. My mother was born in the early 1950s in Malvern, Arkansas, when racialized segregation was legal and part of the du jour. Being raised in California, I have somewhat of a different experience, although that experience taught in high school, I learned about the thousands of Japanese Americans who were called out of their homes. Like the internment, the United States of America has not properly atoned for slavery, the incarceration of Japanese Americans, the genocide of Native Americans. So there's a tapestry here. The administration is hell-bent on taking us back to a 1920s, 1930s, 1940s America, a segregated America. I'm proud to represent one of the most diverse districts in the country. Over 150 languages are spoken. And I know what makes us special, not just in my district, but all over the nation. Immigrants, the promise of a great immigrant nation is written and instoned and beautifully encapsulated on the base of the Statue of Liberty. Our immigrant communities, we know they make us smarter. They make us stronger. The Trump administration and their extremist and cruel treatment of immigrant communities is despicable, all yet too familiar. Going after children in schools, in grade schools, going after people working with their whole bodies in their workplace to try to feed their families, going after parishioners in spaces of worship. ICE is showing up masked in public spaces. That's not the safer America that we were promised. There are young people in my district who have reported to my case staff that they are sleeping under their beds and in closets in fear that their parents won't come home and that they will be next. Those same children and their parents are currently in asylum proceedings. They're following the rules, and yet they have seen their neighbors kidnapped and taken away, separated from their children. Now the Trump administration is trying to weaponize government data to further terrorize immigrant communities. I want to talk to you about what that means in real time. In my district, actually across California, we host some of the world's premier children's hospitals, where children come from all over the world to seek care. In my district alone, I have spoken with medical professionals from nurses to physicians, hematologists and oncologists, and emergency room pediatricians. And they have spoken to us loud and clear that the devastation of these policies are causing real harm. Can you imagine the pain of a mother who escaped a country of tyranny and came here to get treatment for her child? And she is all but too afraid to sit while that child gets chemotherapy because she is afraid that her data, who she is and what she's going through, may be assessed by masked men who will take her and separate from her child. Those are real stories. So I am proud and honored to stand with a coalition of folks who have signed on to this legislation. When it gets to the floor, we are hoping that members from across the aisle will do the decent thing and think about families here in this country, particularly those who are escaping violence from all over the world, who are doing the right thing, who are just trying to survive. Giving them the opportunity to go through a process, seek the medical care that they need, live in safety and security. There is nothing more American than that. We must stop. We must stop and think about what's happening in this moment and stop Trump's attempt to use personal and private and medical data to create and extend a mass deportation machine through this legislation and through the courts and through our vocal opposition, I am positive that in the very end, the stories of these great people, of these amazing children, of the physicians who treat them, we will be able to cross the barrier and get to a moral space in this legislature and in this country to see each and every immigrant in this country as the human being that they are. I stand shoulder to shoulder with immigrant communities in my district and members of this body who stand behind me. All we're trying to do is get the administration to follow its own promise and to make America an amazing country that honors voices, that it honors the rule of law. Thank you all so much for having us here today.
Now we'll open it up for any questions. All right. I love it because I think we said what we said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your
Yeah.
Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia.